So many women in their 20s, 30s, and beyond really struggle to understand what their purpose is here on this earth, or something that just kind of makes them stressed out and anxious. So if that's you, then I'm hoping this video will give you at least a little bit of insight. Hello friends, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jillz and I talk about things like feminine energy, self-improvement, and wellness for women. So if that's something you want to learn more about, be sure to hit that red subscribe button below, as well as a notification bell, so you don't miss when I put out any new videos. So if you are struggling to find your purpose, then you are in the right place, because in today's video I'm going to share some pieces of advice, little tips that I have discovered and learned along the way that I think could be potentially really transformative for you. And I'm going to use some examples from my own personal life as well, because honestly I learn best using examples, and maybe you're like that too. So let's get into it. So when it comes to finding your purpose, my biggest tip of advice is to actively stop searching for it and stop thinking about it. Your purpose is not something that you just think and think about and then all of a sudden, bam, you've got it, you figured it out. Constantly dwelling on it and trying to force it doesn't work. This usually just creates a lot of anxiety and fear and confusion, and all this does is paralyze you. And to be honest, this is not something that I struggled with as much, but my husband really did. And he said that I could share this, but there was a time in his life where he felt very confused, he didn't know what he wanted, and basically he was just trying to figure out his purpose. But instead of actually taking aligned action, he was just sitting in this confusion and fear, and it prevented him from moving forward. He felt paralyzed, like he had to figure everything out before he made his next steps. And that's just not how it works. You find your purpose by living your life, by living in purpose. And I'll get to that more later on in this video, but first know that you are not going to find your purpose by just worrying about it. What's more likely is that you will naturally align with your purpose more and more over time, and it will naturally come to you at a point in your life when you're ready for it. Putting pressure on yourself to find it isn't going to help. All it's going to do is make you anxious. So next, I think that a lot of people believe that your purpose is meant to be this like super specific thing, like this really specific role or task that you're meant to do, when in fact I think that your purpose is meant to be more high level. And I think this is the easiest to explain if I use my own self as an example. I believe that my purpose here on this earth is to simply communicate new and expansive ideas. That's truly what I believe my purpose to be. And that's pretty high level and broad, and I could go about doing this in many ways. I could do YouTube or other social media. I could write a book. I could do public speaking, or I could just simply communicate to my friends and my family and the people that I come across in my life. It doesn't have to be my job, and I could communicate these ideas in many different ways, and it can be super in your face or super subtle. My purpose is not to be a YouTuber. That's just one method that I've chosen to fulfill that purpose. It's a very important distinction. And I didn't say my purpose was to specifically talk about feminine energy either, which you guys know that I love to talk about, but getting more connected to my own feminine was a super transformative and expansive experience for me, and so I want to communicate that to you guys. But I'm not limited to that. Again, it's just one way to go about doing it. So I encourage you to think about your purpose differently. Your purpose is not necessarily those minute day-to-day tasks, but what impact is it making? What's the high-level effect or high-level motive behind what you're doing? For example, I don't know, maybe you love stand-up comedy, but your purpose is probably not to be a stand-up comedian. Your purpose is probably something more along the lines of wanting to make people smile and laugh and bring joy to their lives. And you could go about fulfilling that in many different ways. You don't just have to be a stand-up comedian, but no matter how you go about it, your high-level purpose is still the same. And the third tip, something that I want to bring clarity on. I think that a lot of people think that when you're living out your purpose, because it's your purpose, that it's always going to be easy, or that you're not going to be met with any sort of resistance. And I think that's false. While I do think that when you're living true to your purpose, that you will naturally be more motivated, naturally be more inspired in your day-to-day life, that doesn't mean that that's going to happen 100% of the time. Even with things we love, even when we know we're making a positive impact, we can still sometimes be met with resistance. We live in a world now where most of us are quite comfortable in our day-to-day lives. We have a roof over our head, we've got heat and air conditioning, a comfy bed, a stable food supply, TV and social media to binge on for days, and we've become comfortable with being comfortable. And so sometimes when we feel any sort of discomfort, we think that maybe it's wrong. We might still struggle through it at times. We might still procrastinate. We might still have to be disciplined with ourselves. But at the end of the day, that time, that energy output, and any sort of struggles that you did face, it should feel worth it. I think a lot of us think that it will feel easy all the time if it's truly our purpose. And it might not feel easy all the time, but it should feel right. Next, something crucial when it comes to finding your purpose. Like I said, you don't find your purpose by sitting on the couch, twiddling your thumbs, and just thinking about it. You find it by living your life, but more importantly, by living a life that is truly authentic to you, by following the things that inspire you, and by doing things that come naturally to you. It'll be really hard to truly find your purpose if you don't allow yourself to explore what you're passionate about, what really lights you up, without judgment. And I mean, if you would have told me 7 years ago that I would be talking about this kind of stuff on the internet, I would think that you were absolutely crazy. But over time, I just allowed myself to follow the things that actually interested me, even though nobody in my life was on the same page. And one thing led to another, and another thing led to another, and I just started feeling more and more satisfied with my life. And again, over time, it led me down a path that started feeling right. To find your purpose, you have to be honest with yourself about who you are, what your passions are, and another big one, what your natural strengths are. All of it. And this takes some self-awareness for sure, so something like journaling can be really great, but also another amazing thing to do is to ask people who you're really close with, like close family, close friends, people you've known for a really long time, and ask them, hey, what am I naturally good at? What have you seen that makes me the most excited? A lot of times your strengths are things that you don't even realize because they come so easy to you, and you just assume that it comes that easy to everyone else as well. For example, many years ago, I asked Cole, my husband, I said, what am I good at? What are my natural strengths that you notice about me? And the first thing that he said was that I really enjoy and I'm really good at learning new things, investigating new topics, becoming very knowledgeable on a topic very quickly, and then sharing and articulating that with other people in easy to understand ways. And when he said that, I was like, huh, he's right. I am really good at that stuff and I really, really love it. But then I responded to him and I said, can't everyone do that? Doesn't everyone enjoy that? And he said, no, not at all. I've never met anyone like you. And honestly, that was a really helpful moment for me. So if you're feeling lost, I encourage you to do something similar. And the last point that I want to make about finding your purpose by living your life, a lot of times, now of course not for everyone, but what can happen with a lot of people, and this was the case for me, is that you will find your purpose by going through one of your biggest challenges. For me, I had this period in my life where my health tanked and I was just miserable, and it was a humbling experience, that's for sure. And I was just not doing well, and I had to work on every aspect of myself: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, everything. And I had a lot of outside help, but I also had to do a lot of work on my own. I had to learn a lot of information and approach my life differently. And even though it was not a fun time in my life, I'm grateful that I had to go through that, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have been as inspired to learn all the things that I learned and to get to the point where I'm at today. So something to think about. And last little tidbit of advice, you will not just automatically step into your purpose overnight. It's a process. Don't focus on that big end goal and that big desire of living in 100% total alignment. Just focus on stepping one foot in front of the other every single day. The process of me slowly moving into my purpose was probably about 7 years long. I mean, I guess you could say it was like my entire life, but realistically, it was about 7 years long. It was a one step in front of the other kind of situation. You're not going to go from 0 to 100 overnight, and you don't want to. You don't need to rush it. Appreciate the process and be present in that. Every single day, just focus on living in as much alignment as possible, doing the things that you're interested in, doing the things that feel right to you in your gut and in your heart, doing the things that feel natural to you, even if they feel silly, even if you don't know why. Over time, the more you experience, the more you learn, the more new people you meet, the more opportunities arise, the more clarity you have, and everything will slowly start to fall into place. Trust the timing of the universe and trust that you are headed in the right direction. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. They are free, and I'm so grateful when you do. It helps me to get my voice out there. I'm so happy when you like and comment. It just makes me happy. Oh, and also don't forget to subscribe below if you haven't already, and rewatch these videos if you haven't already. Besides that, love you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.